Okay, we are going to get started. And the cool thing is we are definitely recording this webinar. So folks that are not able to join us will be able to look back at it and use it as they please. So welcome everyone. I am so happy to have you. We are so happy to have you join this webinar. We did it at 6 p.m. because we just thought that time would be more accessible for young women and young people. So thank you for dedicating your evening to learn more about the WFMN Innovators program. So my name is Lulit Molla, and I am the Vice President of Community Impact, and you'll mostly be hearing from me about the WFMN Innovators program tonight, but I am not alone. I'm also here joined by my colleagues.
Good evening, Gerard Cheek, Rita 13 Fellow and YWI Program Manager. I'm the point of contact for the RFP, and if you have questions or concerns, you'll have my phone number and email, and we'll communicate about the RFP in more detail.
Great, and you know what? I was just notified that you cannot see my screen, so let me make sure you can really quickly. Okay. Now it looks like you should be able to see us. So we haven't really, you haven't really missed. This was the welcome screen, and this is who we are. And we have one more person joining us.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening. This is Jasmine Sanchez, and I am the program officer and the grants manager here at the foundation. So welcome.
Great. And we are the program team here at the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. So tonight, we will offer, we'll let you know what the Women's Foundation is and who we are and what we do. We want you to know more about the Young Women's Initiative and what this application process is, and we want to answer any questions. What I'm going to do is I am going to unmute you on my side. So in the event that you have questions, you are able to just ask a question verbally, or you can raise your hand in the toolbox, and you'll be able to ask a question that way if you prefer. So the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, who we are, we're a community foundation investing in gender and racial equity across the state of Minnesota. So we do work such as research. We have the leading research on the well-being of women and girls in the state. We do grant making, both to individual young women and then organizations that are serving women and girls across the state. Let's see, we do some policy work. So we've passed legislation at the Capitol from ensuring women's economic security to ending sex trafficking in Minnesota, or legislation that promoted the safety of women and girls, I should say. And then we also do things such as convene folks. If multiple ideas, people have ideas for change, we provide the space and the support so that people can come together and think of big and bright ideas, and then we support them to help make their vision a reality. So that is the work of our foundation. And as you can see, we have values of hope and generosity and inclusion. And we really believe when we create a world where women and girls thrive, communities, their families, and all people thrive. So it's really, really cool working at the foundation. And now I want to tell you about the Young Women's Initiative of Minnesota. So if your volume is low, I recommend that you put it up, because I'm going to play a video over here. And the video is going to tell you a little bit about what the Young Women's Initiative is and how it came to be. So just give me 1 second. And I'm going to play it. of the Young Women's Initiative and really tell the story of what it is. I thought that it might be more interesting than me just giving you that history. Hopefully your technology worked. So in summary, we at the Women's Foundation of Minnesota have a partnership with the governor's office and other partners in the state to say that young women deserve to live fair and just and thriving lives. And we have dedicated a 7-year initiative to make this happen. The video showed a little bit of why this is imperative in Minnesota, because we know that even if Minnesota is great, it's not necessarily great to everyone. And the data shows that it's not great for young women from the communities that I will talk about soon. We're going to make this happen through grant making, such as the WFMN Innovators program. We're going to do research. We're going to do policy. So if you are selected to be a WFMN Innovator, you are going to be joining a movement. And if you are not selected, just by applying, you will have access and information to opportunities to plug in. So it's really a win-win if you apply. And I want to be clear that we, while our language says young women, we are also inclusive of both cisgender and transgender people, gender non-conforming folks, and gender non-binary people. So that is how we define that is who we are inclusive of and infer to when we say young women. So is that the application, if you had a chance to read the RFP, which I'm guessing you have, and that's how you registered for this webinar. If you went on our blog post, we talk a lot about the Blueprint for Action, and you might be like, what is a Blueprint for Action? So one, it's linked everywhere, so I recommend you click on it and skim through it, but it's really a list of 20 specific recommendations from young women, young people and their families, telling us exactly what Minnesota needs to do in order for them and their families to, young women and their families to live better lives. So if you look at the Blueprint for Action, it builds upon the strengths young women already possess. If you are already doing this work, or if you are a young woman yourself, a lot of the recommendations will not look new to you because they are reflective of what community and families and young women have been saying for a long time. So this blueprint surfaces hopes and dreams and barriers and strategies and recommendations from the following specific communities: African American, African immigrants, American Indian, Asian American and Pacific Islander, Latina, LGBTQ folks, and young people with disabilities and young women in Greater Minnesota. Because that is who the blueprint comes from, that and the data shows folks in these cultural and or regional communities face the greatest barriers to succeed in our state. That is who this grant prioritizes when we make our selection. And I could take more questions if you have a question at the end or now. Feel free to ask whichever time suits you. So we have these 20 recommendations in the Blueprint for Action. Again, I encourage you, if you have the RFP up on your phone or your desktop, click on it, go to the Blueprint for Action, and you'll see like a beautiful document with 20 recommendations, and it's like why and how and strategies. It goes a little bit in depth. But in summary, on your screen, these are all of the recommendations. And what we've done is we've categorized them into 3 specific goals around economic opportunity, safety and well-being, and leadership and respect, to make it a little more digestible and a little more clear. And as you can see, under each goal are the list of recommendations that align with that goal. So for example, for leadership and respect, we're saying Minnesota will do better when we promote a state of respect and leadership with and for young women. And then you see the list of recommendations and so on for economic opportunity, safety, and well-being. This is important because the projects that you propose saying like, I think I should be a WFMN innovator because I'm gonna move this project forward, we're gonna ask you to connect it to one of these recommendations. I promise it's gonna be easy because again, these are not new items and you will see everything that young women and young people need reflected in these recommendations. And we have yet to find someone that says, here's what I care about, and I don't see it in the recommendations because it's broad and it is multi-issue and multi-solution, just like the lives of young women and young people. So you want to be a WFMN innovator, and here is the application timeline you should know about. So the application opened November 27th. Right now we're doing the webinar. The applications are due January 10th, 2019. That is a Thursday. It is due by 5 p.m. So mark that, put that in your phone and on your website and on your physical calendar, and tell your friend and her friend so people can remind you, because that is an important deadline. And then after we get all the applications, we will meet with a review committee the following month, February 9th, and then we will notify you if you are a WFMN innovator in March, and then invite you to join the kickoff April 12th, 2019. So you should have 2 dates definitely in your calendar. One, the application submission due date, January 10th, 2019. And 2, the kickoff in the event that you are picked to be a WFMN innovator, which is April 12th, 2019. Okay, and also, I encourage you not to wait until January 10th to submit an application. We already have folks that have started their application. So especially if you're on winter break or you have a little bit of time this season, sit down and start your application so that you are able to submit it before the deadline. And eligibility. So who can apply to be a WFMN innovator? Well, first, young people between the ages of 16 to 24 who identify as young women, cisgender young women or transgender young women are fine, or you can be gender non-conforming and gender non-binary. But you have to be between the ages of 16 to 24. We've gotten questions such as, what if I'm already 24? Yes, you can apply if you're already 24. Just as long as you do not turn 25 before April 12th, 2019. Okay, so if you're 24 and your birthday is in June 2019, you're about to be 25, you can apply. If you will be 16 by the time the application, you get the grant, which is April 12th, 2019, you can apply. So as long as you are between the ages of 16 to 24 on April 12th, 2019, you can apply to be an innovator. You have to live in the state of Minnesota, and your project must focus in the state of Minnesota. So you can travel as part of your project as long as the impact and the learnings come back to Minnesota. That's because we're a statewide foundation and we are committed to doing serving Minnesota. Okay, and as I mentioned, priority communities, African immigrants, Black, African American, American Indian, Latina, Asian Pacific Islander, LGBTQ youth, young women with disabilities, and Greater Minnesota. So you can be multiple, you may be biracial, you may be a queer, Black woman, we're not saying you have to only fit into one of these categories, but priority will be given to the communities identified. And last, citizenship of the United States is not required for you to apply for this opportunity. So how can you use this? How can you use this $2,500 to support your leadership in Minnesota? Well, we encourage you to do a couple of things, right? So if you're already working on a social change initiative, like you have your own group of folks that you're organizing, you are involved in politics and policy, you're involved in a student group at school, or you're doing something to change a circumstance or to respond to an event happening in our world, apply for this grant so that we can support your leadership. If you have been thinking about it and you want to start and you are looking for something to spark you starting a social change initiative, apply for this grant. That's also a perfect opportunity. You can design and pursue a personal learning plan. We have folks that traveled, that were, for example, studying health in college, and then that traveled to a different country to make the connections of how health impacts young women of color. And then they brought it back and shared their learnings with people in their community. You can attend a conference, you can organize a specific event, you can, again, supply resources to organize people for advocacy. A lot is going on right now. You can think about using this for research. And then, of course, I said travel. So we really encourage you to think about how can this microgrant uniquely help move your leadership and ideas forward. It's not often that there is an opportunity to access $2,500 with very little strings attached to support like innovation and ideation and to resource work that you're already doing or work that you want to do. So be creative, think big, vision big, and also think about what you're already doing. You don't have to create something new, and see how that connects to the Young Women's Initiative. Here are some examples of how in the first year of the program, some young women use their $2,500. Okay, so in front of you is Anissa Ahmed. She's from Minnetonka, Minnesota. She, going back to those blueprint recommendations, she made sure she connected her project to recommendation 3, which is ensuring community space and conversation, and recommendation 16, which is increasing mental health support. So she decided that she wanted to use $2,500 to start a nonprofit called Galanjo. And what it does is it uniquely provides programming and services to Somali young women to address mental health, harassment, and to really like create space and host community for these group of girls that did not have the opportunity elsewhere, right? So that's unique. You do not have to start a nonprofit, okay? This is not like a way to get 10, 20 new nonprofits started. That is not a requirement. It's just an example, although you could. Another example is Tamika Jo Andy. She is in Bemidji, Minnesota. And Tamika Jo works at Planned Parenthood, and she like has a way of connecting like reproductive health to ending violence against women in her native community. So what she did is she's going to use the $2,500 to attend the 16th Indian Nations Conference, which is hosted by the Office for Victims of Crime. And she plans to share what she has learned with the communities that she works with. So she connects the passion she is pursuing with her attendance to this conference, and then she's going to share what she's learning with her community. So that's another example. Kayla is an entrepreneur. Okay, so she's all about the blueprint recommendations of enhancing career pathways and ensuring community spaces and conversations. So she has a business. She used this money to grow her business. She has a baking business, and one day she envisions like creating community so that families kids and young adults can create and learn about baking skills. Okay, so that was her. And finally, Maya, she's all about STEM. So she's an engineering student at St. Paul College, and she used her money to go to China to study architecture there and learn more about engineering so that she could pursue this in her work, and then connect it to leadership and how young women don't have the same access to STEM opportunities, science, technology, education, math, like young men do. So she's used this opportunity in her unique way. And of course, you might have seen this advertising with At Least. She is an artist and a playwright and an innovator, and she used her money to build like Black young women's experience with theater and the arts, because she saw that there was a lack of that in Minnesota. So again, think creatively. How can this microgrant uniquely help move your leadership forward? Okay, so that is a little bit about what the Young Women's Initiative is, and about the what you can apply for, and some examples. Do you have any questions at this time before I move on?
No.
Okay, if you do, let me know. We'll have some time at the end too. Okay, so your application will consist of a few things. We are asking you to make a quick video. We are asking you to complete a brief project outline questionnaire and like a projected budget. Like neither of these things are too long, and we're going to encourage you to be succinct in your answers. We're going to ask you to submit a letter of recommendation. And then we're going to ask you to submit the resume you already have. So making and uploading a YouTube video. We in the RFP have support to how to make a YouTube video. Chances are, if you own a smartphone, you have already made videos, whether it's on Snapchat or Facebook, or sending some to your friends. So we encourage you to use what you already have. Like iPhone videos are extremely fine. If you have a friend, ask them to use their phone. You can make your phone, you can make your video on your phone, okay? We just ask that you are cognizant of the environment, so that you're not doing it, for example, with a lot of noise in the background. Maybe you can find a quiet room. We have questions in the application that asks you to answer specific questions in your video. So we want your video to be about 3 to 6 minutes long. So it could be 3 minutes, it could be 6 minutes. And we want you to tell us about you. We want you to tell us about your community, about your vision, and how you will move the Blueprint for Action recommendations forward. I'll show you an example of a video briefly. But again, your recording device does not have to be fancy. It can be your phone, it can be somebody else's phone, it can be a camera, it's up to you. Just be mindful of the environment and the background sounds. Video editing, you don't need to do nothing fancy to edit your video. We have had young women edit their video because that's what they enjoyed doing. And we've also had young women, like, it's like a video they recorded and just uploaded. There was no, like, there were some errors in the video. They might have paused. They had someone help them. You know, they submitted it as it was. We don't want your video to prevent you from actually applying. So just think of it as simple as possible. We have instructions in the RFP on how to create a YouTube account. It's free and pretty accessible. So look at it. If any of this feels like too much at any point and you need assistance, you are encouraged to contact us. You can make sure that your video can only be seen by people who have the link. So that is both in the RFP, and I keep referring to the RFP. That is the document linked on the blog that says like start your application. Here's the request for proposal. Or when you sign to our portal to start your application, you'll see this information as well. You can edit your privacy settings when you create a video so that only we can see it, like only people who have your link can see it. Okay, so this won't be like searchable if you don't want it to be. It doesn't have to be a public video. And then when you're done creating the video, you're gonna send us the link via your application in our system, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So after you make your video, we're also going to ask you to log into our system, and I'm going to pull up our system real quick to log into our system and learn and submit like an application through there. And what I'm going to ask Jasmine to do is log us in so that you can see live how you're going to do that. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's always helpful for someone to show you. So while Jasmine's preparing, I'll just say first, when this link is in your RFP, the request for proposal, and is on our blog, right? It's the only way to apply to be a WFMN Innovator. And I will go back. So if you go to WFMN.org. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. Hold on just 1 second. If you can't see it, I'll make sure you see it. Okay, so let's say you are on Google and you want to like access our application. You go to WFMN.org. This is our homepage. Okay, so if you scroll down, you'll see the opportunity, the WFMN grant application now open. Click on that. And here you see a lot of the information I have been saying tonight, like how can I apply? What does this mean? What will I get, etc. All of this information. So on here, there's also information to apply to become a WFMN Innovator multiple times, right? Register here, apply to become a WFMN Innovator, etc. So click on apply to become a WFMN Innovator, and that's going to lead you to the RFP. And this is what I have been referencing this whole time. Remember when I kept saying RFP and the RFP? This lays out every single thing that I've said tonight. So use it as a resource, read through it, have it, etc. So once you're on the RFP, once you're ready to apply, you're going to click on register here to access the web portal and start your application. Okay, so you're going to click on that, and it's going to take you. It's good to use Chrome. Now, you don't have a login information because you have not yet applied for a grant with us. So you have to use the bottom link and use this link to register. So you're going to click on the link to register. And it's going to take you, so you can see some of my information is auto-filled. It's going to take you to this page. You're going to click on the parts that are marked in red that says you need to click on it. So your first name, your email address, your password, your last name, a password hint. You have to accept the terms and conditions. And then this is important. You have to say you are an innovator applicant, okay? Because that's what you are. You are an innovator applicant. And then you will give some personal information. And then afterwards, you will say, you will press register so that you're able to send us the link. Right, so once you enter register, we will get a notification that you are trying to access our portal. And on our back end, we will approve you. And once you are approved, you are then able to log in with the credential, with the email address and the password you entered. Okay, so let's just pretend you've done all of this, you've pressed register, and then now you're ready to log in. And now Jasmine, so once we are ready to log in, you'll put your email, you'll put your password, you'll press login, and it will take you to the home screen, and Jasmine will now show you how to start your Innovator application.
Hello everyone, again, this is Jasmine. So as the lead said, so please make sure you register. And on the when we get that request, it'll come on the back end, and so we'll approve it as quickly as possible. But please make sure that you're not waiting until the last minute because we have to approve it first before you can even access the application. So please make sure that you give yourself time to request to access the application before you start working on the application. So as the lead went in and she registered, and so she was approved, and now she's able to access the application. So here is the application for the Innovators program. So essentially we've taken some of the information on the RFP and kind of inserted it into an application format. So you'll see these different tabs here at the top. That will outline some of the things, again, we've talked about in this presentation. And under the video submissions tab, so I'll just point out some of the things that are important for you to remember as you're going through this application. So here we have the video submissions tab. Here you'll see this pink box. So a lot of the boxes that are pink means that they're required fields for you to enter. So here's where you'll post your URL and then post it and then open it, and then that should be able to, you'll upload your link that way. Personal information, again, what is your name? What is your preferred pronoun? What is your preferred name? Where do you live? Or for example, if you are currently going to school not in your hometown, so then you'll include that information in here. For the YWI communities, know that you can click multiple communities. If you do control and then click, you can press multiple communities if you have multiple identities. And so you see these little blue boxes here. These will give you kind of a prompt if you're like, what does this mean? Like, this will help clarify some information. And if it's not clear, again, please feel free to email us and contact us so we can help you with the application process. And then again, so then personal information, very straightforward. Your project outline and budget, also very straightforward. So really, what is your project? What are your goals, etc. And at the bottom here, we'll ask you, like, do you give us permission to show this video for promotional purposes? And also down here, you'll see a link. This is a link where you're able to download the project budget template. So if this is your first time doing a budget, or if you've done it in the past, this is just an easy way for you to like map out some of the costs associated with your project. And then, so again, what is your expense amount if you're traveling, your airfare, food, hotel, etc., your amount, or any other notes that you want to add in here, please do so, and know that all of the expenses will equal to $2,500.
So I just want to backtrack a little bit to go back to the application. If we could scroll up all the way. So this is essentially your project outline and budget, and they are meant to be supplemental items so that we can understand and get to know you, your story, and your vision better, okay? So if I was applying for a $2,500 Innovator grant because I want to organize young women to vote, for example, what is my project? My project is working to organize young women of color to vote in the next municipal election. I am passionate about this because X, Y, Z. Okay? So these do not have to be extensive answers. One paragraph, 5 sentences are fine. Again, they're supposed to complement your video. So we're not looking for everything to live within these answers. Yeah. So the next question, if we go down, who will this project involve? Well, I'm leading this project, but I also have a team of 3 people that are going to help me, and we're going to work with 20 senior high school young women who are graduating and who will be eligible to vote. So that is who the project will involve, both the audience you are trying to impact and the people you're working with. What are the goals of the project? I might have 3 goals, right, to getting young women to vote. First, my goal is to educate young women of color on the importance of voting. Second, help decrease barriers from young women of color so that they can vote and they don't have barriers to vote. And then third is to actually increase the voter turnout of young women of color in the next election. So that is as brief as you have to be. Those are my 3 goals. When will it take place? It's going to start in August 2019, and it's going to go until August 2020. That is the timeline. And then what are potential challenges? Well, I have to fundraise more money. I don't know, maybe you don't. Another potential challenge might be, getting people to be passionate, especially because we just got out of an election period, and so people may not be as motivated. I also, there are some other challenges. So think about the challenges that might arise and just jot those down. And then with the project budget, we just want to get an idea, right? So if I'm saying, okay, to get young women of color to vote, and let's pull up the project budget template here. You're going to fill it out and then you're going to upload it into our system. Okay. So the expense items around getting young women of color to vote, for example, might be one, I'm going to put together a conference that engages young women and helps them see the importance of voting, and then gets them to commit to vote next. Like that is going to be how I will execute my vision. So the expense items are like room rental and food and flyers, and maybe you're incentivizing participation. Or let's say, like, in order for me to get young women of color to vote, I have to travel for this conference in New York that will help me deepen my knowledge and help me support. So then my expenses for my project are like airplane ticket and hotel. And then when I come back, I have to do a workshop. So what are the expenses for a workshop? This does not have to be completely accurate. Just do your best guess and estimate and fill it out then. So now let's go back to the application. So now we go to next.
Yeah, and thank you, Luli. So so down here is where we click down on the template. And so when you're done, please make sure you save your document where you've added your expenses. And then you're going to use this link down here to upload that document. And so again, as you fill these out, so these pink boxes will turn white, and that's what you want at the end when you are ready to submit. So again, we added the frequently asked questions, attachments. So we are looking for your resume. We are looking again for a letter of recommendation. And as Luli said, this is supplemental information for us. So please make sure, and then as you can see, the letter of recommendation is it can either be uploaded here or it can be emailed directly to Jamara, and her email information is included here in the application. And so ideally, when everything is filled out, you can click the submit button. So if you are having issues with submitting, it's maybe you're missing something that is required. I recommend that you save, oversave as you're going through the application process. And I would also say, if you're going to click on some of these links here, I would say click on your right click and then open a new tab, because sometimes what this will happen, it'll, like, if you click here, it'll take you directly, and then maybe you won't be able to go back to the application. So make sure that you're opening up a new tab every time you click on a link here. And I would say please use Google Chrome. That's going to be your safe bet, or Firefox. Internet Explorer is not the best platform to use as you're filling out this application. So Google Chrome is going to be your best friend. So again, at the end, everything should be white, and then all the pink boxes will be filled in, and then you will be able to submit your application onto our platform.
Yeah, so with your resume, submit the resume you already have. Okay, we just want to get a big idea of the type of work that you're doing, and then your letter of recommendation. If you have for them to address, but ask them to write about you and why they think you should be a WFMN innovator. Okay, so those are the instructions. And in the event that you have questions, you are always encouraged to contact Jamara. She's super friendly by email or phone. But whatever you do, do not wait until the day of to do this. Because remember, we have to approve you in order for you to log into our system and be able to complete this application. If you have trouble, it's just going to be a little too hectic. So try to get started on it as soon as possible. And again, the deadline is Thursday, January 10th, 2019. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. I think we are near the end of our presentation. Excuse me. Again, to let you know, all proposals must be submitted online. The deadline is January 10th by 5:00 p.m. And then Jamara's information is on your screen there. Jamara at WFMN.org and 612-236-1825 if you want to get in touch with her via phone. So that is the information we have available for you. Once you submit your application, we have a committee of like our staff and young women reviewing it, and we'll be meeting in February to review applications, and you will be notified in March. So at this time, with the information that you've received, and if you had a chance to think about things, do you have any questions we can answer for you?
So I'm not sure if this is, would you rather me type it or can I speak?
You can talk.
Okay. So I know like the initiative, so like let's say you have something that's kind of already going with like the blueprint to action initiatives or the goals. If you already kind of have something going and you're trying to like build on that, would you gear your...
Can I ask you, Zania, what do you have going on, like in one sentence?
Oh, I have an artist platform, and we host open mics and create spaces for Black and Brown folks to like come together.
That's fantastic. So there's a recommendation about creating community spaces so that young women and their families and their communities could build and come together. So again, whatever you're doing, I almost guarantee that there's a blueprint for action that connects to it. So I just encourage you to look at the blueprint for action and identify the ones that you see a connection and tell us why it's connected.
Okay, got you.
Okay, do you have additional questions, or do other folks have questions? You can ask all the questions, endless question time.
Yes.
Well,
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I was gonna ask was, so like within what you already have established, is there would you recommend writing towards like a specific branch out of what you're already doing, or like the overall idea of what you're doing?
I think, yeah, so you could do both, right? You can say, like, I have an artist platform that I have been running for a year, and this is what we do. And I'm going to use this $2,500 to increase the impact by doing X, Y, Z. Or you can say, I want to be like a supported leader, so I'm going to use this money to support me as I'm doing this work. It's up to you. And it's like, which one will help your leadership? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Got you. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know we have Nisanjak and Sananami. Sanami, well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions?
No, you guys went over. I came in kind of late, but I had already, read the website in depth, so it's pretty much a review of what you guys just went over.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And this is recorded as well. So we will make sure to post this on the website too. And if you have questions, you can always contact us. So I will ask one more time if there are any questions. And because it doesn't look like anyone's chatting either, I just want to make sure that people have an opportunity. We're going to end the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Please apply. Like, y'all, this is such a great opportunity. And again, either you will get the grants or you will be plugged in for future opportunities. We've had folks that applied that didn't necessarily get it, and now they're working at our foundation. You know what I'm saying? So there's always a way, and it's such a good opportunity. And I want to make sure that if you're a young person, if you're a young woman doing things and shaking things, that you are plugged into this movement and you are supported and resourced so that you can continue to lead. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for joining us. And hopefully we get to see your application come through. Thank you so much.